Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Storybox Podcast. My name is Kyle Nelson. I am your host, and I have a great guest today. His name is Nathan Taube, and he and his wife, Kelly, and their son, Canaan and Eden, live in Quito, Ecuador. And Nate is the director of Casa Deportiva Cumbre Alta, a professional soccer club. And we are going to learn about his story and talk about things that he's passionate about today. I really think you guys are going to enjoy it. So welcome to the podcast, Nate.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome, man. Well, usually when people come on here, what we do is we first talk a little bit about some of their story. And so if you were to talk about your upbringing, your family, and maybe you had like 3 descriptive words of what that was like. I know I'm kind of catching you on the fly here, but like or even just give us some background, some context of where you're coming from.
Yeah, I grew up as a missionary kid in Argentina. So I think, one of the distinguishing words would be potentially different. That my family was different and where I was and the people that I grew up around. But at the same time, I was able to integrate into Argentine society in a really fun way. I love Argentina. It's part of my DNA now. And so, yeah, we were outsiders in the community to some degree, and we had to work to integrate into the community. And, so that would be one of them potentially. I went to boarding school here in Quito, Ecuador, and that's where Kelly and I met when we were in middle school. And we went off to college in and around Chicago, and we're part of a church there that really allowed us to learn how to do life. And so I don't know, that was a learned community would be a huge part of my story, how to do community in an authentic way. And that was really part of my Chicago time story. And then we came back here a little over 13 years ago to work at the school that we both graduated from as chaplains. And since then, God has moved us into different directions. But yeah, it's always been a bit of an adventure.
Okay. And you're, from a standpoint of your Jesus story, this is obviously all part of that. Was there a point in your life where you're like, okay, Lord, I'm all in, I'm following you? I mean, was there an age, or was it kind of like, this is how I grew up and like I knew God was real, the whole thing, and I'm just in? Or was there a distinguishing moment in your life?
No, yeah, obviously I grew up in a Christian environment. I'm going to, if the church doors were open, we were there. And then coming to high school, middle school and high school, away from my parents, that was the first little bit of, okay, I need to decide whether this is mine or just my family tradition. But even in that environment, there was just this expectation of Christian culture, and this is how we operate. And I knew how to play that game, and I knew how to fit into that. I knew the rules, and I could play by them sometimes. And then, going off to college and really engaging with the church group that we got plugged into and got connected with, and seeing really for the first time in my life how community can be done, and how that community can guide you and push you to a deeper relationship with Christ, and all the potentially pat answers that I'd been given my entire life that I wasn't completely comfortable with, that I could ask questions and I could answer, the answers. It was okay if I didn't know the answers, and God wasn't scared of my doubts and of my questionings. He needed me to engage those so that I could more fully know him and understand him, and come to a place where I could see him as a God that I wanted to have a personal relationship and love him instead of this dreading, fear only side of my relationship with God, which I think was the dominant emotion and thought process throughout my childhood and into through high school. So I think that those first few years after leaving Ecuador and going to the States and diving into that community was life transforming for me.
That's awesome. I think for a lot of people that are going to watch this, that's going to be incredibly helpful, because I think a lot of people are on this journey. A lot of young people, talk to a lot of teenagers who are in that transition of like, is this my faith or is this mom and dad's faith?
Yep.
And I think that what you just said, that the Lord wants to give us room to wrestle and to ask questions and not have answers, and really just learn about him, who he is, and allow his love to meet us right where we are and bring us into that place of,
and I'm 42 now, and that's still happening. I still don't have the answers. I have some ideas, and this is there's very few things that I hold with an iron fist, that this is I'm just not smart enough to know all these answers, and it is a lot of trusting God. And all right, God, what am I hearing from you now?
Yeah. So cool, man. Well, let's dive into where you're living and what you're doing now, because it's a journey, I would imagine, this whole process. So you've been in Quito for 13 years?
Yeah, just a little over 13 now, yeah.
And then when you got there, were you starting as living missionally the way that you're living now? Or, I mean, obviously there's a journey and a story to what's going on with sports and soccer, the soccer club.
Yeah.
Because you guys are a professional soccer club in Ecuador.
Yeah.
But that, I would imagine, in the beginning, that wasn't where you started. So
No.
It would be great to hear that, because I would imagine God is threaded all throughout that, of where he's showing up and leading you and taking steps. And so let's start talking about that.
The first step was, I came down to be a chaplain at the school here that I graduated from. And so I knew sports was going to be part of that, just because sports has always been a part of my life. Soccer's always been a part of my life. And so I did that. I engaged with the sports teams at the school. And the first summer after I started here, honestly, I was just going to be bored. and I was like, all right, what am I going to do? And the guys that I had connected with through, whatever activities we were doing through the chaplain's office, I just asked them, hey, let's put a little team together. Let's start training. And we joined a city league that they put together every year, and it's a great tournament. And we joined, and we got crushed. We got crushed every single game. We lost. It was small-sided soccer, so like ridiculous amounts of goals, but it was like double-digit losses every game. Right?
Wow.
And that's really honestly how the club started. Super spiritual. I'm just going to be bored, and so I need something to do this summer, and that's how it got going. Things changed at the school to where they were wanting the chaplains to be like part-time classroom teachers and part-time chaplains, and that just wasn't going to be a good fit for me. And I don't belong teaching in the classroom. And at the same time, the mission organization that we were with, I was having conversations with the leadership, and we had gotten connected to a few people that were on the inside in the soccer world in Ecuador that really we had no business having connections with. But, God had just made those connections, and they opened up some possibilities for us. And so talking to the leadership's like, hey, I'm done. I can't continue at the school. I think I need to throw my time at this club idea and see where it goes. And they, lots of conversation, lots of prayer, lots of, talking with our supporters back home, our pastors back home, and all of those kinds of things. It was like, all right, this is what you need to do. But at the same time, the organization that we were with said, we're not ready to take this project on, but we think you need to run this project. So go figure this out. And so I started talking to leaders who had started ministries from nothing that were in our community. And one of the people that I spoke with was Rich Brown, who's the president of Inklink International, which is the organization that I'm with now. And he was, if your organization doesn't want it, you can come with us tomorrow. And it's like, all right, relax, settle down.
Wow.
They saw the potential of what Cumbre Alta could become from the get-go, and really bet on me and had trust in me and faith in me. And when there was no reason to believe that I could run an organization, that I could run a soccer club, that I could, create this and sustain it. And so that was crucial in just having some leadership believe in me and say, all right, we believe in this. We believe that God is wants you to launch this, and we want to come behind you and support that. And so we did. And honestly, for a long time, it was not a full-time gig, because it was, we had a handful of people. And so it wasn't this huge full-time thing. At the same time, my kids were super young. And so I was doing stay-at-home dad / club stuff as we progressed. But since then, we've seen God just show up and open doors for us. That we partnered with the school that I left, the chaplaincy. To use their facilities, and there's just been pieces that have come together all along. And now, 13 years later, we are a professional sports club. We've gotten promoted. The U.S. sports league system is a little bit different than the rest of the world. Here, if you do really well, you get promoted, you go up to the next league. If you do poorly, you start dropping down. And so we've been able to get promoted a couple of times. And so we're in the third tier of Ecuadorian soccer with the men's team, and looking to move into the second and then the first tier of Ecuadorian soccer. But it is a fully professional league. And what we do with the club is we partner, we walk alongside our people as we share life with them through the context of soccer. So we're very clear and upfront about who we are and what's important to us. And so we do very official Christian things and spiritual things and God-centered things, devotions with our players and praying and those kinds of things. But really the meat and potatoes of what we do is just, all right, where are you and how can we walk alongside you to help you take your next step with Christ? So that's Cumbre Alta in a very small nutshell.
Super cool. What, from a standpoint of sport, I know a lot of people that just talk about how perfect sport is for a context of discipling people, leading people to Christ. Would you say that that's the case in your experience with soccer and just the whole context of sport and how it works and coincides with Scripture and just all that stuff?
No, God has used sport in my life to bring people and mentors and people that I needed to speak into my life and on that side of things. And so I've always seen the power of sports and in a way to influence people and to have say so in people's lives. God just does something with that team environment where you're all pushing for a common goal and you're all striving for some big dream that you guys have to influence people. And the team environment you can influence for not great things as well. But if your focus and your intention is to drive people to Christ and just allow them to see His love for them through the context of sports, and especially if you're doing it in a way that is not just within the sports environment, but when the whistle sounds, you still care about the person and you're following up with them and you're meeting with them,
really good.
You know their story, and when things go really, really poorly, you show up and you're there, it just creates this bond that you can have tremendous influence in people's lives. So yeah, for any Christian activity that is not using sports in some capacity, you're missing out on a fantastic opportunity. People care about sports. They just do. Yeah. It's an emotionally charged, portion of life that just creates incredible bonds that you can use to push people to Christ. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really do feel like the Lord is doing something special. He's been doing something special in sports for a long time, but there's something on, at least in the U.S., like a national stage. It seems like there is a real people moving into places of influence, whether it's head coaches in the NFL or NBA, whatever, and significant players that are pointing to Christ on national TV, national stage. I have a lot of people who are connected in the sports world across the country. And I said, is it just me, or am I seeing it seems like God is moving in this very powerful way in professional sports. Yeah. And it's interesting. I talked to a gentleman who's been in the professional sports world as chaplain, trainer, coach, you name it, collegiate world as well, all this stuff. And he said, really, we can attribute this back to at least what we're seeing in the U.S. from a number of guys who have been behind the scenes, loving on, leading guys to Christ over the last 20, 30 years on a professional level, to where we are now seeing more fruit out in the open than we've ever seen. And so I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, no, and it has, it's integrated into culture at large, in a way that potentially, Sunday morning service at a church isn't, or at least not as it used to be. And so it's just a really easy way to connect with, your entire community in a super significant way.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. Well, one of the things you talked about was dreaming, and you said, I think the statement was, me and my team keep being invited into dreaming bigger. And I love that statement, first off, because I'm a dreamer too, visionary. But some of that stuff, significantly, you're seeing those dreams right now, really being pushed, and you dream big, and then you're like, okay, God, we're going to trust you. Can you unpack what's happening right now for you, and what some of the stuff we've talked about as I've gotten to know you over the last year, just from a standpoint of, you were using fields, renting fields, those fields were taken away, which essentially created an opportunity to dream. And then
that's a good spin on it. I like the positive spin on that. Sometimes it gets it's so positive, but
right. Sometimes you're like, this feels like a nightmare. This is not a dream.
No,
but unpack that for us.
Yeah, from the get-go, our dream is to reach the highest levels of Ecuadorian soccer as we share Christ with whoever's in our sphere of influence. And over the last little bit, we've seen God show up in some really cool ways, and even just conversations with people who aren't followers of Christ, and being like, all right, this is possible. You've said you want to do this, but this is possible in our context, whatever the context they were in. And it just opens our eyes to all right, maybe we're just dreaming a little bit too small. And then specifically, we've seen God show up in huge ways over the last 8 months. We've fully outgrown the fields that we've been renting for the last 13 years. We're now 300 plus players on a weekly basis, and we're on 1.5 fields that it's just not enough. We don't have enough field time. So
wow,
it was time to lean into, all right, let's find our forever home, and let's figure out where we can be for the forever with the club. And so 8 months ago, we pitched this to our board and said, hey, if you guys are behind this and you guys, are going to back this, then we think we found the property that we would like to purchase. And at the time, over the last 13 years, we had saved up a grand total of around $20,000, which was going to buy nothing, right? And so we said, this is what we see. This property that we're looking at is cheap for the market and will serve us long term. And this for a club that has never raised, in its entire existence, more than probably $500,000, right? And this property is going to cost us $1.3 million. And we had
how big is it?
To go to. It's about 10.5 acres. Here in Quito, there isn't a lot of land. There are buildings everywhere. And so to find 10.5 acres that's semi-flat in the middle of the Andes Mountains is a minor miracle, just in and of itself. Just the location, access points, all of those things. It was just the ideal situation for us. So we'll be able to anyway, we started fundraising 8 months ago. On Monday, August 12th, we will sign for the purchase of this property. And, even a month ago, we were like, all right, we're going to have to raise, we're able to purchase this outright. And we already had a deal in place with the owner where it's a $1.3 million deal. But if we happen to be able to raise it in 6 months, he would lop off $100,000 from the price.
Wow.
So we're like, yeah, great. That's a great clause to have in our contract. But, we're a month out and we're nowhere close. We're $300,000, $400,000 away from. And on one Friday morning, I jumped on a call that I didn't want to take, and a church jumped on and partnered with us for $100,000. A guy that we'd been talking with for a long time and has been, a super cheerleader for us, jumped on, sent me an email, said, hey, we're in for $100,000. We got another email later, within a 4-hour span, 3-4 hour span, got another email saying, hey, we're in for $10,000 from another supporter. And so we went from, this is not going to happen, and God just said, oh, watch me work. And he did. And so that put us over $1 million. And then, people just wanted to see it close out. And so it went pretty quick from there on to being fully funded. And on Monday, we're going to sign the papers. We'll be the owners of our forever home. And it changes everything for us in terms of, but even that, it's all right. Even throughout that process, having conversations like, okay, maybe we are still dreaming too small, because we just keep seeing God show up in ways that we would have never expected him to do. And that speaks really poorly of my faith and the way that I interact with God, and I see what God could or couldn't do, the box that I shoved him into. And so, why can't we be the best club in Ecuador and not only have impact on our community, but have an impact on the entire country? Why can't we be the best club in South America and impact the entire continent? Why can't we be, the best team in the world someday, to where, it's a global club that's having impact worldwide. And soccer is king in the sports world, in the global sports world. Right. And it's growing in the US as well. And so just the opportunity to grow that platform, to be able to share Christ in meaningful ways. Yes, broadcasting that out, but then being able to go deep with the people that we're walking alongside on a day-to-day basis. I think I'm tired of limiting God to what I think he can do, because he just keeps showing up in ways that I wouldn't have expected. So my faith has definitively grown throughout this process, and has invited me and my team into thinking, all right, God, we'll stop limiting you. And all these things that we see as impossible, but we see that we feel like you're driving us towards and you're wanting us to engage in. All right, well, we have a little bit less fear than we did 8 months ago, because we've seen you show up in ridiculous ways. We're not going to limit you anymore. We're just going to jump on the bandwagon and say, all right, we're along for the ride. Let's see what happens.
Wow. So you guys have raised, is it 1.2 million or 1.3?
1.2 million. Yeah. We still have to fundraise a lot more, because we got to develop the property now, and we got to make it usable for the club. And, it will have three full-size fields on it. We'll have a little smaller field on it as well. Locker rooms, weight rooms, cafeteria, housing for some of our players, office, like the whole 9 yards. And that, it just puts us in a different conversation in the soccer world here. Most even top tier teams don't have their own facilities and don't have what we're going to have because of this purchase. And so it makes our platform just a little bit bigger. And we're in conversations now with clubs that we have no business really being in conversations with because of this. And so I'm excited to see what all God does through this property, this new opportunity.
That's awesome. Let me ask this question, because you're even just talking about dreaming bigger and all the different stuff, but you guys also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys actually come to the US during the summer as well and put on soccer camps. And are those targeting Spanish speaking communities mainly, or is it open to everybody? Or what's the strategy, and what's the mission behind that?
We take players and coaches from our club here in Ecuador, and we go to the States every summer. The last 3 summers we've done that. This summer we did 7 camps in 4 weeks where were we? We were in Louisiana. We did 3 or 4 in Texas, so Dallas, Houston, Longview, and then we were in Atlanta, and then we were in Tampa this summer as well. And yes, it's open to whoever. We mostly are in trying to engage with Latino populations and communities that potentially are underserved by their communities in general, but that don't have access to high quality sports camps. And so we run the cheapest sports camp you can possibly imagine in terms of cost to the camper. This year I think it was $30, $25, $30, something like that for the week, which in terms of sports camps is unheard of in the US.
Right.
Because we're not trying to make a buck off of them. We're trying to engage them, and we're trying to share Christ's love with them. And so we do have impact in local communities, and that's important. And if we're not having that, then it's not going to work long term. But then, to me, the most exciting part is our guys and our girls being able to go up there and see that they can have an impact in the U.S. And the U.S., that is, people here want to get to the U.S. They see opportunity in the U.S. and they idolize the U.S. in a lot of ways. And for them to be able to go there and have impact and see that they have value and they can have impact on the kingdom. And some of the people that we're taking aren't believers either. And so to see God mess with them and in the best of ways, while all of their support systems are not there for the month that they're there in the U.S. It's just been really fun to see them interact with God in a new way. And then they come back here and we get to walk alongside them as they flesh out what that looks like and what that's going to mean for their lives. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. Thankfully, I have a great team of people that take care of the camps, and I don't go up on the summers to run the camps. I get to stay here and focus on what we're doing locally here. But as a club, yeah, it's exciting to see people's perspective change, even about themselves, and
yeah,
God just messes with you when you're out of the comfort zone.
Are you guys open to, say somebody's watching this and they're like, man, we would love to see something like that happen in our community. Are you guys open to more partnerships and kind of dreaming a little bit bigger on what that could look like in the summers?
Yeah, I think long term we hope to be everywhere in the U.S. and grow our team that is going up to the U.S. Um, it would just have to work out logistically, and all the things, all
Right.
the pieces that we need in place on a local basis for us to be able to show up and be able to run the club, and run the camps, and engage with the campers and their families. But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for new opportunities, new partnerships. We want people to know what Cumbre Alta is about, and that we exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for us to just engage new communities that don't know about us.
Cool. Cool. You had mentioned that you guys have like 300 players, correct?
Yeah.
So does that mean that you guys have numerous teams that are
Yeah.
at different levels within the system of tiers, or
Yeah.
is that
No. So it's all the same club, but we have different age groups. So all the different age groups. So we have teams from, U6s, under 6 years old. So, we have some
okay?
little 4-year-olds running around the field, and that is like, that's a little bit chaotic and glorified babysitting sometimes, but just getting them engaged with the sport a little bit and enjoying that. And then we have, all the age groups all the way up to the
Okay.
men and women's team that are, our best teams regardless of age, essentially.
Yeah.
And so within that, we have 300-ish. I don't know the exact number, I'll be honest, but around that number. Then we have another 250 at our club site in Bossier City, Louisiana. And then we just launched San Jose, Costa Rica
Wow.
a couple weeks ago. So it's God's allowed us to keep growing, and people are catching the vision of, all right, this can have tremendous impact in people's lives through soccer. So it's fun to see it keep growing.
That's awesome. And you mentioned women's teams as well.
Yeah,
Does
absolutely.
do they have a strong presence of soccer leagues, if you will, for women in Ecuador? Is it
Yeah. Unfortunately, women sports and probably women in general have been fairly well ignored in Ecuador for a long time. And so in terms of women's sports in Ecuador, we are light years behind the U.S. in terms of
okay?
opportunity. So we created last year, well, beginning of this year, last year too, a U12 and a U14, sorry, U12 and then a U16 team for girls. And that honestly is one of the only clubs, we're one of the only clubs in Ecuador that are running girls teams.
Okay.
And so most of the players on our women's team show up a little bit later in like 20 somethings or 30 somethings, when they've had a little bit of independence from, financial independence, and they have a little bit more time on their hand potentially. And mom and dad aren't telling them, no, they can't play soccer anymore potentially. But by that time, all of their developmental stage, of soccer playing is gone. Right. And so the level of Ecuadorian women's soccer is really low in comparison to the U.S. certainly, but it's light years behind the men's, because no one's investing in women's sports here in a real way, and so we are definitively different in the way that we are choosing to engage women's sports and making it a priority. We're in the second tier on the women's side of things. Unfortunately, there are only 2 tiers on the women's side of things, but we're in the middle of our season now with the women, and trying to push into the playoffs and see if we can make a run to get promoted to the first division. But there's just huge opportunity on the women's side of things when they show up, and this is the first place that they're being told that they have value, and that changes everything about them, changes their entire perspective about themselves, and then being able to say, and God has, sees value in you as well.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun to see some of, even my daughter, like she was playing on a mixed team, so boys and girls for her entire life. And last year was the first time that she was able to play on a girls team. And it's like a light turned on. Is all right. I can do this. I belong here. And most clubs aren't doing that in Ecuador. So God's going to do some fantastic things through
awesome.
in the women's sports world. Absolutely.
Very, very cool. So you guys are purchasing the property, and then you're looking to build essentially a state-of-the-art facility.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't want to put God in a box, but how much do you guys have an idea of what the cost will be to build that facility? What's the next big fundraising hurdle?
So next overcome? Big fundraising goal over the next 12, 18 months will be another couple $100,000. And that will allow us to build out the basic infrastructure. So it will certainly not be state of the art for that cost, but it will allow us to be fully functioning and have all the essentials that we need to run all of the teams out there and be able to host games there on our fields and start generating revenue as well, which is a huge thing for us. Instead of being,
will that be through ticket sales or
ticket sales, but then also renting out our fields to other teams? There's a huge lack of fields in Quito, especially. There's just not a lot of space, and so there's not a lot of fields that meet professional standards. And so we're gonna have 3 of those, and so we're gonna be able to rent field time out to other clubs that need space, and so that will generate revenue for us. And running our own tournaments for kids and getting them in, and then concessions and parking and all of those kind of things that we haven't been able to do. It's always been an outgoing expense instead of being able to generate revenue that way. And so that will definitely change for us over the next couple years. So yeah, that's the next stage of the fundraising, is another couple $100,000 to be able to get us to where we're generating revenue and puts us on the path to financial self-sustainability, which in the missions world is huge. When we love every single one of our donors, and honestly, I don't see us ever stopping having a donor base, because there's so much more that comes with the donor base than just dollars. It's people who care about you, people who are praying for you, people who are connecting you to other people, and inviting other people to come down. We're desperate need of people to come join us. And so that side of the donor base on top of dollars is huge for us. But at the same time, it's important for the donor to see that we are on the path to financial sustainability. So that it's not always dependent on them to come up with, the next $200,000 that we need for the next dream that God throws our way.
So you said something that stood out. Like, if somebody is excited about what you're doing and wants to be a part, essentially even live as a missionary or come and be a part of what you're doing, what would the process be like for them to make connection with you, even find out more? Like, what does that look like? Have you guys been doing that over the years, or is that?
My team has slowly been growing. At first it was just me. Now we're a handful of people that work at the club full time. But there's way too much to do. And the way that we do ministry, it is a holistic approach to ministry. And so we do need people who are strictly interested in discipleship and only the spiritual side of things. There's just too many players for the current work team to be able to disciple them how we would like to disciple all of our players. There's just too many of them. So we need people who want to disciple people, who want to walk alongside them and share the gospel in a living, breathing way. But then most of our players, most of our families that are attached to our club come from super low resourced families, low resource backgrounds. And so all the issues that you would typically associate with poverty, that's what our people are dealing with. And so that's what we're walking alongside them in. So we need social workers, we need teachers, we need people who like to run businesses and want to mentor people and help them walk alongside that while they start their little enterprise to feed their families, all of those kinds of things, healthcare, mental health care, soccer related. Also, obviously, if you want to do soccer stuff, that's what we do. That's how we connect with our community and that's how we connect with our people. So coaching and athletic trainers, but even on the media side of things and marketing and, basically any interest that you would have as a human, we could probably put that to good use here. So yeah, if this sounds intriguing and this sounds like something that God might be leading you towards, then yeah, get in touch. I don't know if my email can be put on that, or
yeah, we'll put all of your contact info.
Instagram, Facebook. You can follow the club on social media. But get in touch. And we have a couple of Facebook groups and Instagram accounts that are just strictly for the ministry side of things. And then we have a broader fan base kind of social media as well. So, if you're interested in the ministry side of things, get into those groups, follow those accounts to be able to just see what's happening alongside as we go along, grow this club and keep doing
Love
that.
it.
Now we need people. Please get in touch. Please come down.
What if they don't speak Spanish? Is that a big deal?
Listen, Matt Kiefer came down. They've been down here for 4 years now. He's from Shreveport, Louisiana. And when he came down, he knew zero Spanish. And that was his reality. Now he's running business meetings in Spanish. He's talking to our sponsors. He's engaging our players and personal discipleship conversations, mentoring.
Wow.
So Spanish is not the problem. And even if that's the scary side of things, some of our best interns and people, we have work teams come down, short-term teams come down to partner with us and do different projects with us. But we've seen those have tremendous impact as well. So even with the language barrier, we had a couple of soccer players, college soccer players come down one summer, and they basically just dove in the deep end. Their Spanish was basic, but the guys loved them because they were the same age and they did the same thing and they were good at soccer, but they kept talking about God, and they kept that was important to them. But that normalized God to our players in a way
that's
that
awesome.
In a hierarchical society like Ecuador is, the coach, it's harder for the coach to have that close relationship with the players, because it's the boss and he's going to tell us who gets to play and who doesn't get to play. And so there's separation.
Yeah.
But they eliminated that separation, right? And they ended up going on family vacations with one of our guys who came to know Christ and decided to follow Christ through the conversations that Nick and Dale had with him. And he became our team captain for the men's team. He later became my assistant once he finished his playing career, so joined the coaching staff. And now he's the athletic director at the school that we partner with. And he's doing the exact same thing that was done with him. He's doing that for the next generation, and
that's awesome.
Just walking alongside people and let's show Christ's love to them. So that's the type of impact that people who don't speak Spanish can have in the lives of our community.
I love that. I think another thing that would probably be interesting for people to understand, like, even though your players are playing at professional level,
Yes.
it's different than in the US, maybe
Yes.
from a compensation standpoint. Are a lot of them working other jobs and doing this? And
No, that's good clarifying question. No, when we are a professional sports club, and when you think professional sports, you think fast cars and lots of money and buying houses everywhere. That is not the case. Our highest paid player earns roughly $200, well, probably $300 based on off after bonuses and those kind of things a month, which is not enough to live on here. It is a very it's very much a part-time job that they are doing for as part of the club, but they have to go find jobs in addition to what we're able to pay them currently. But the reality is that most of our players, that's what they're living off of. They're living off of that very small wage that honestly doesn't cover costs. Minimum wage, or like basic wage here, is $460 a month. So we're paying them roughly half of that. It's a part-time employment. But that's what a lot of our guys are living off of. So, and the only team that is currently receiving salaries, even though they are quite low, it is the men's team. The women's team is an amateur side, and then all of our youth teams are amateur sides as well for the time being. We hope to change that on the women's side in the near future.
Cool. I just think that's great for everybody to know, because they're thinking, I remember when we first talked, you were saying, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just great to understand.
No, during COVID, to get just an idea, most of our guys, if they don't work today, they don't eat today. And during COVID, Ecuador shut down.
Wow.
And that really was a turning point in the club, because we stepped into that space where, I'm getting calls and it's, hey, coach, I haven't eaten in 3 days. And it's like, well, hey, bud, you should have called me 3 days ago and we could have gotten you some food. But that was the reality for, we ended up we were feeding 120 people ish on a weekly basis, that if we didn't step in, they were going to have some serious issues and ends meet. And so, delivering food to our guys and seeing, and to their families, and seeing the conditions that they were living in, and are still living in, to some degree, was shocking. And honestly, it just drove home the point that we need to do more, and we need to grow as a club so that we can step into spaces that we need to be able to help our people in a more profound way, in a deeper way, in a better way. And so it was heartbreaking to see your players living in a shack, and all right, we have to do more. So that is our context for professional sports and third tier Ecuadorian soccer. Right.
Okay. Well, for those of you that are listening, I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this or watching this and you're like, man, there's something going on in my heart regarding this, I want to encourage you to reach out to Nate. We're going to have all of his contact information, social media, all of that stuff in the show notes, so that you can do that and make contact with them. And maybe even some of you are like, man, I feel called I would love to be a part of what they're doing down there. Which sounds incredibly exciting. And if there's anything, I have not known Nate for an incredibly long time, but what I do know is that, and this would be my own opinion of Nate, is that he is like, you have a desire, here's where we can make that work, or how we could work together, and figuring it out. So it's not a narrow-minded thing, but he is a dreamer, and I would say this, I feel like you are somebody who could see somebody's gift or somebody's desire to serve and go, yeah, we can make room for that. Here's how we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, so we have we've had a lot of interns. We do protect our culture, and we want it to be the right people, and we want it to be people that God is saying, hey, this is who you need to partner with, and this is who you need to be working with.
Right.
So we'll do our due diligence on screening and all those kinds of things.
Yes,
absolutely. We need people to continue to partner with us.
Yes.
Financially, showing up and coming to work with us, coming on a
Yep.
short-term basis, praying for us,
Yeah.
partnering with the camps, all of those things. If any of
Yeah.
this is ringing a bell, get in touch.
And then also too, you guys probably, I would imagine, partner with a lot of churches that send groups to come.
Yeah, no,
Is that correct?
we have a lot of teams through our sending agency, which is InkLink International.
Yeah.
And honestly, even if sports and Quito, Ecuador aren't your thing, but you're looking for international, missions experience, check us out, InkLink International. We're all over South America and Central America now. So there's opportunities not only in the sports world, but in every area of life essentially now.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, hey, as we're wrapping things up, would you pray for all the people that are going to watch this?
Yeah.
And specifically, would you pray for the dreamers to, dream big with the Lord, and then whatever else is on your heart that you feel like you want to pray for people that might be watching this?
Sounds good. Lord, thanks for this opportunity. I thank you for what you're doing and what you're going to continue to do. And I just pray for the people who have doubts about their dreams that you have instilled in them, that you would just crush those doubts, and that you would show up in just little ways now and continue to grow their faith little by little to where they can see that you're going to show up, and where you're directing, you're going to show up. And so that dream that they're scared of, that roadblock that they see ahead of them that seems impossible to get over, you're bigger than that. And just help us to help me to open my eyes to that reality, and so that we can continue to partner with you in growing your kingdom around the world. That's what we want. We want to see your name glorified. So I pray for people who even are having doubts about reaching out to me, to Kyle, about potential opportunities to partner with us in some way, some fashion. Just give them the boldness to take that first step, to just dive into, even with doubts, even with fears, to lean into you and your dreams. In your name, amen.
Amen. All right, everybody. I'm going to make sure that Nate's contact information, his organization, all the stuff, we'll get that from Nate. We'll make sure that you have that. It'll be in the show notes, so you guys can make connection. And I want to encourage you to follow them on social media and then share what they're doing on social media too. It's always a really simple way to get the word out so we can make connection. And if you liked what you watched today or listened to today, please share it, subscribe, like the whole thing. But thanks for joining us today. Nate, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, we'll see you next time.